Denver's ready to try something new to get people off the streets permanently after spending $100 million on a program that's not delivering long-term results.
This skips the expensive interim step, right? And so this takes people directly into housing.
A utility company will make its customers chip in to cover energy assistance programs rather than dipping into its own hundreds of millions of dollars in profits. And a flood advisory on a sunny day in Denver. It's a whole damn situation. And our weekly excuse to do good and feel great about it is going to boost a nonprofit that hires young people who aren't likely to get a job anywhere else. It's tonight on Next. The city of Denver appears ready to admit that its $100 million homeless hotel shelter program is not the best plan. As the Johnson administration tries to pivot to moving people directly from the streets into paid-for apartments, frustration on city council is rising. Here's Mark Salinger.
Denver's quest to end homelessness has relied on hotels like this. After spending an estimated $100 million on the plan to move people here, the city now has a new plan to avoid the hotels completely.
This skips the expensive interim step, right? And so this takes people directly into housing.
The mayor's advisor on homelessness, Cole Chandler, asked City Council today for $5 million more to move people directly from the streets into leased apartments. The city would use the majority of that money to pay rent for 250 people for up to a year.
Instead of moving folks indoors into a temporary option, we're skipping over that temporary option and taking people straight to a leased housing unit.
It's a major change of course for Mayor Mike Johnston's homelessness initiative. The All-In Mile High program has already moved more than 1,200 people into hotel shelters, yet very few are moving to permanent housing from there. So far, only 45 have left the hotels for leased units of their own. For context, 165 have left to be homeless again.
We've put $100 million into a program where we know that 73% of the people leaving it are failing.
The new plan to move people directly into housing uses American Rescue Plan money left over from the pandemic. When that runs out, council members fear it's not clear what comes next.
You cannot have sustainable programs without a sustainable funding source.
And speaking of funding,
we're still actively working on that.
The mayor's office still won't say exactly how much money Johnston's homelessness initiative has cost since he took office.
Come on, this is bordering on ridiculousness now. It's embarrassing not to be able to tell a constituent what this costs. Thank you, Madam.
So our best estimate, looking at what City Council has approved so far, is a cost of more than $100 million. People who move into leased apartments, now paid for by the city through this new plan that was presented today, will be offered services and will be paired with a social worker. However, there are no requirements for people to actually show up to those meetings with their social worker or participate in any rehabilitation programs. As far as we know, they're also not required to have a job or be looking for a job, Kyle, in order to get that rent money.
There were folks in the Housing First camp that said that this is what Denver should have been doing from the start and not moving people into these essential hotel shelters. But the city's not about to say that the $100 million was a complete failure. I mean, that would be holy cow.
Yeah, they're saying that they need that hotel shelter program as well. They're going to keep people in those hotel shelters and continue, as far as we know, to move people into those as more rooms clear up. They say that this is another tool in the toolbox. Stop if you've heard me.
Yeah,
heard that before, but another tool in the toolbox towards solving that homelessness problem.
It's a pretty big admission that this is not getting the job done.
Big change.
It is $100 million. Mark, thank you. Pro-Palestinian protesters on the University of Denver campus have called the bluff of campus leaders there. They ignored the folks in charge demand that they take down their encampment by 9 last night. Tents are still up, and nothing's happened. So far, campus leadership and police have not taken any action to move on that encampment. Protesters say they're still holding out for their demand that CU sever all financial ties with Israel. Campus leaders and protesters did hold another round of negotiations this afternoon. We have not heard updates from either side on whether they came to an agreement. There's a utility company in Colorado that made hundreds of millions of dollars in profit last year and today got approval to increase its customers' bills to support a relief program for low-income Coloradans, the kind of work that the utility can then take credit for. This is actually not another Xcel Energy story. Our Marshall Zellinger shows us how Black Hills Energy is literally nickel and diming its customers.
Residents of Castle Rock are not served by Xcel. Their electricity comes from Core Electric and their gas through Black Hills Energy, BHE. Last year, Black Hills Energy made a profit of $262 million across 8 states, including Colorado. And today, Black Hills got approval from state regulators to increase customer bills a total of $924,000 a year to fund energy assistance for low-income customers who can't afford their bills. The line item for energy assistance on a residential bill went up from 4 cents a month to 30 cents a month, literally 26 pennies. But that's a 650% increase. For large commercial businesses, the fee went up from 64 cents a month to $4.50 a month, also 650%. Black Hills is raising the rates to get customers off a wait list and allow the number of people on energy assistance to increase from 2,000 to 3,000. PUC commissioners approved the changes today, even after their staff said they had to meet with Black Hills 5 times and trade several emails over concerns about the company's projections on energy assistance moving forward.
Look, I agree with your recommendation. I think it's a prudent way to move forward. But yikes on I think the necessity to have to meet with them 5 times to get to the bottom of what's been going on with this program.
Commissioners were also told that in 2019, Black Hills asked to reduce this fee because the company was collecting more than it needed for energy assistance.
As I understand, there were actual circumstances of them being overfunded, yet still running a wait list that they did not move people off and fund for assistance. And that just can't be how this works.
Black Hills will get that additional $924,000 a year from customers. Put another way, $924,000 is 0.003% of its $262 million profit from last year. Black Hills has a nonprofit arm that also provides funding for energy assistance. That nonprofit gets donations from customers, employees, and the company. According to a spokeswoman, the Black Hills nonprofit provided almost $700,000 in energy assistance last year, but that's from all 8 states, not just Colorado. And how much from the company, how much from employees, and how much from extra donations from customers, Kyle, I don't know.
Donations from customers. I guess people could chip in extra in addition to what they get on their bill. But that's important, though, because then we hear from these companies later on, we did such and such for you as a state, so you should feel grateful. And it's like, well, if you reached into my pocket and you took my dollar out and gave it to somebody else, who's getting thanked?
Remember when we did this more than a year ago when Xcel and all the other energy companies said they were making a donation, contribution to energy assistance, and we found out from Xcel's standpoint, not to bash Xcel here all of a sudden, but they said $500,000. And we found out that covered like 1 week's worth of energy assistance. So you got to look at how much, where it's coming from, and who it's really benefiting.
Poor Xcel catching strays in the story about Black Hills Energy. All right, Marshall, thank you. Hey, may I make a recommendation? It's a piece of journalism that did not come from our team, but I think it's worth your time. Associated Press reporter Nick Riccardi, who's based here in Denver, has a story out this week on how election deniers are increasingly mainstream in the Republican Party. He dives into a report out this week from States United Action, which has built a state-by-state tracking tool looking at election deniers running for and holding office, including here in Colorado. And the story also looks at the broader danger to democracy if a party is only willing to peacefully accept the results if they win. Digging into the Colorado data, it's fair to say they haven't even included every statewide Republican candidate who flirted with election denial. For instance, it does not include 2022 gubernatorial candidate Heidi Ganahl, who refused to say publicly when we asked her whether elections were rigged, but then we caught her privately telling supporters that they had to win big to overcome election rigging. Ganahl lost by almost 20%. We have a link to that Associated Press article on Next social media accounts and on the next section of 9news.com. So there's this workforce development nonprofit that runs 2 coffee shops in Denver, and they have a pretty unusual hiring strategy. They're looking to hire young people that they think will have a really hard time getting a job somewhere else. They become the prodigies of Prodigy Ventures. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports that nonprofit that is changing lives for generations in some of Denver's most marginalized neighborhoods. So Prodigy was founded on the idea that there is undiscovered talent in ignored neighborhoods. Their paid apprenticeships give young people on the margins of society a launchpad into high-demand jobs in hospitality and customer service. Their wages go back into the Globeville and Orea Swansea neighborhoods, sometimes as the primary income for their families. It's a proven path to economic mobility. Prodigy pairs its job skill and leadership development training with a real willingness to help their apprentices work through the challenges in their lives, because they know they're taking the young people with the toughest pathways to successful careers and then giving them an intensive 12 to 18-month preparation for the working world. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate. You know that even $5 helps, so as always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us started. More than 2,500 of you have signed up to simplify your giving with a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. What that has meant is that we've started recent micro-giving campaigns with almost $20,000 in donations each week. Use that same QR code or text to get there.
That's why the dam is here, because the numerous floods would come through Cherry Creek and go downtown. And
Thanks, Dam. You're the best. You get a little flush out today as a treat. So watch out downstream. A critical bridge over Blue Mesa Reservoir could reopen in just a few months if repairs go according to plan. And a word of warning for Coloradans thinking of making a cowboy-style political ad. One end of the horse is a lot prettier than the other. A precautionary tale for politicians appearing in TV commercials. If possible, avoid positioning yourself right next to a horse's "Ask me why and I'll tell you," because that image can live on forever. 2006, Republican Bob Beaupre was running far behind Democrat Bill Ritter, but the behind that became the lasting image of his campaign came in a TV ad. Beaupre positioned squarely next to a horse's ass, assuring an unfortunate visual forever linked to that losing campaign. Fast forward to this week, Republican congressional candidate Mike Lynch's ad with a closing shot of the candidate cheek to cheek with a horse's assumed to be his own. So let that be a warning to anyone foolish enough to put themselves on television next to a horse's backside.
Oh, I enjoyed that segment a lot. We have a beautiful day today, sunshine and 70s after 2 days of severe weather and heavy rain. Beautiful weather and even a little snow in the high country. A lot of folks on the road getting ready for that big holiday weekend and a lot of kids out of school. Summer break is just about here and it's not quite summer. So how about a mild, dry evening? We have warmer weather tomorrow. Sunshine close to 80 heading into the holiday. 72 the official out at DIA with 80 in Lamar. Tomorrow we could see 90s in southeastern Colorado. The winds are picking up out of the southwest ahead of a little area of low pressure that we're tracking just to the north and west of us. It will stay north, but will bring in a cool front tomorrow, and that means Friday may be a few degrees cooler. Tracking some strong thunderstorms again for travelers from Texas up to the Midwest. Tornadoes possible, large hail, again, heavy rain. All of this activity outside of Colorado's border, but if you're headed out of Colorado for the weekend or for maybe a little vacation, as we're kind of done with school, a lot of the areas are today, just be mindful of that. Tomorrow, best chance for any showers will be up around Netherland, Winter Park, Granby, and Estes Park. Otherwise, beautiful. Temperatures this evening dropping out of the 70s, 10 degrees into the 60s by 10 o'clock. We will see 78 tomorrow, 70 with a stray storm possible heading into the weekend. A few showers late Saturday, and then a beautiful Memorial Day Monday. Could see 80 again the middle of next week.
Finally, an end in sight for the people in central Colorado stuck on one end or another of the broken bridge over Blue Mesa Reservoir. CDOT leaders say they could reopen one lane of the US 50 bridge over Blue Mesa as soon as July 4th, but they're going to need to complete 4 critical repairs by then. That bridge between Gunnison and Montrose closed more than a month ago after inspectors found cracks in the steel supports. It's forcing people to take a 6-hour detour or use a limited access road that is only open to locals. Once the repairs are finished and limited traffic is moving again, then CDOT's going to focus on permanent repairs to bring the bridge to full capacity. They hope to have that done by this fall.
it's providing a protection for a lot of businesses and people, in the metro area.
So when you see the rushing river in Cherry Creek today, give the dam a little thank you, as it takes a one-day breather. Anyone who goes by the Cherry Creek Trail regularly probably saw the water running real high today. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is flushing the Cherry Creek Dam. Bit of disruption today, an easy trade-off for keeping Denver safe in a real flood emergency.
Flooding is a natural part of the ecosystem on many streams and rivers. Wildlife's pretty smart. If the water's coming up, they typically get out of the way. So we're at Cherry Creek Reservoir. We're doing our annual maintenance flush.
The reason we do this is to clear the sediment from around the gates and allow us to more reliably open and close them.
So that the gates, when we do need to operate them in flood emergencies, we know they're going to function as they're designed.
Areas that are close to the creek will be flooded out, certainly, as well as the trails that cross and come close to the creek, those will be flooded out as well.
We release about 1,300 CFS, that's cubic feet per second, behind each of the 5 gates. So we alternate between those gates, rotate through to get all that sediment out.
This allows us to have a smaller amount of flow as you move further, maybe impacting less. It dissipates the water.
The water that we're releasing here takes about 6 hours to get downtown. You know, what we're doing today is to make sure that we can provide that flood risk reduction, lowering the risk of flood downtown. And so making sure that this is all operating well, we'll know it will work when we need it.
You can expect high water in Cherry Creek through at least 8 p.m. tonight. You know it's spring in Colorado, so that weather whiplash, storms one day, sunny skies the next, that's nothing new. But getting your yard work done, regardless of the conditions, that's the most Colorado thing we saw today. Our viewer Teresa in Crested Butte took cover when the snow blew in yesterday, but her neighbor just carried on with the lawn mowing. She thought that was pretty remarkable, but you know what? The animals did the same thing, because as soon as the storm cleared, look at that, there's snow on the ground, there are flakes in the air, but the hummingbirds are back at the feeder. That's spring in Crested Butte. If you see something that feels like Colorado to you, email it to us, next at 9news.com. Emily and William from Park Hill Elementary have our feedback tonight. Thank you both. We're back with that next. The nonprofit Prodigy Ventures runs 2 coffee houses in Denver with the goal of hiring young people from the surrounding Globeville, El Rio, Swansea neighborhood, with a special focus on those young people who would have the biggest challenges to getting hired anywhere else. They leave Prodigy's intensive 12 to 18-month job training program in high demand in the hospitality industry. To join me in supporting Prodigy Ventures through this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign, scan that QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491. You're going to see 2 options when you get there. One is to give a little something this week, and the other is to donate to the Word of Thanks Fund on a monthly basis. Chip in a little something for each weekly microgiving campaign. You've raised $12.5 million by that method since 2020. Feedback tonight from Janet, who says, how would we know if the mayor's homeless initiative didn't work until we tried? That certainly is one way to look at it, Janet. $100 million is a pretty hefty bill for a try, but now they're going to spend a few million on something else and see if that gets better results. And Elizabeth tonight with the big takeaway from the evening: avoid horses' backsides. She says, got it. Thank you. You're welcome, Elizabeth. I'll see you next time.